During those times, during those chaotic seasons, it seems like the morning ritual is dispensable. But that's actually when you need it most of all. Because for me, it invites the unwavering presence of God. It's going to overflow well into how I'm caring for others and loving others.
Welcome to Permission Slips, a space for you to practice paying attention to your life with self-compassion and kindness, so you can discover the wholeness, purpose, and joy you were made for. I'm Jillian DeBritz, a life and leadership coach and a recovering perfectionist, learning alongside you how to give myself permission to be human. I am so excited to be here today with our guest, author, Jennifer Dukes-Lee. Jennifer, welcome. Thank you for being here.
This is so fun to get to chat with you. I've been looking forward to this.
Me too. Well, and it's just a gift for me to be with you in a very real morning as we talk about how to love your mornings. I told you as we jumped on that it's been a bit of a frantic morning on my end, and I'm so excited to talk about your new book, How to Love Your Morning, which I'm going to hold up this beautiful cover right here. It's stunning.
It's so pretty.
I just like looking at it. Yes. And to talk about what it looks like to be a real person in real mornings with real lives, and that can actually love our mornings. So thank you for that gift of your work.
Thank you. That's one thing I tell a lot of people, like, tell me about this book. I'm like, well, we all have a morning, and this is a book for mornings for real people. So the fact that you repeated that back to me today is so affirming, because that's what I wanted to feel like.
Yes, absolutely. Well, for people that don't know you yet, I'd love to read your bio, and then we can jump into just the story of how this book came to be and your heart for it. So for folks that haven't met Jennifer Dukes-Lee yet, she is a best-selling author, speaker, and morning evangelist. I love that. Yes, you are. She's from Iowa, and she's the author of several books, including Growing Slow, It's All Under Control, and Stuff I'd Only Tell God. She wants to live her life in such a way that you can't help but want more of Jesus. I love that.
Yes.
Jennifer, will you tell us just a bit of your story, kind of the background of who you are and how you got into this writing work in the first place? And then we'll talk about the book itself.
Yes. So I grew up in Iowa. I grew up in a little town where I was introduced to the faith, went to church every Sunday, was in vacation Bible school, they call it. I got the perfect Sunday school pins, all these kinds of things. But I, from a really young age, didn't know if I believed in God. I wasn't even sure about the historical Jesus. Like, is this sort of a fairy tale Santa Claus situation? So I was in deep, deep, deep doubt, despite hearing the word of God every Sunday in church. And I really, I wouldn't say I was an unbeliever. I was a wannabeliever, because I wanted to believe. And eventually I did. But along the way, vocationally, I became a newspaper reporter. I poured myself into my work and really loved it. I covered news for the Des Moines Register, the Omaha World Herald, major kind of metro newspapers, and thought that's always what I do. I had a dream of being a reporter since I was 16 years old. And during that time, I was growing in my curiosity about what the purpose was for my life, what this all meant, why I was here. And I began to study God's word really meaningful way, and approached the scriptures, interrogating them, honestly, like I did as a news reporter. So eventually, I don't have like this neat, tidy little story of faith, but over time, God really transformed my life. And I'm no longer a news reporter. I thought I always would be. I'm not a news reporter, but I am a good news reporter.
Yes.
Covering what is the Bible is often referred to as the good news of Jesus. So that's I kind of take that journalistic experience, that love for words and writing. And since 2014, I have been writing books. I think I'm at 9 or 10 now, counting the Bible studies and journals that I've written.
Wow.
And I also get to have fun conversations with people like you. I get to meet people all over North America, hearing their stories and sharing mine. And in the meantime, I live on this farm in far northwest Iowa. It is a fifth generation family farm.
Wow.
So my husband's family has been farming this ground since 1870.
Oh my goodness.
And this is where we also raised our girls who are now adults. So that's
Mm.
me in a nutshell.
Wow, and I love that story. I've never heard the term wannabeliever, but
I
I
made
love
it
the
up.
honesty. I love it. The honesty of that wrestle that even, for people who are listening from all different walks of life and all different stages in their faith journey, I just love the honesty of that you're allowed to wrestle. You're allowed to
100%.
doubt. You're allowed
Yes.
to interrogate the scriptures and
Yes.
the
He can
Lord in
handle
a
it.
way he can handle it. And I have some red flags that come up anytime I hear people talk about God, whoever their God is, in a way that squashes and squelches all questions.
Right.
For me, I don't want to follow God. I'm not allowed to question or wonder about or struggle or wrestle with. And so I just love that part of your journey. And I know you bring that journalistic flavor into your writing, especially
Yes.
this latest book. So
Yes.
can you talk about the genesis of how to love your morning and how this beautiful book came to be?
Sure. So every book that I've ever written before has come out of some really specific flaw in my life and in
Mm,
my character, my
mm.
personality. You mentioned a couple of them. Growing Slow. I could have much more easily written a book called Growing Fast because that's my personality. I wrote a book called It's All Under Control. People tell me that I'm a bit of a control freak, but if everything goes exactly as I've planned, like I'm totally flexible.
Mm.
But in any case, I am, I guess, something of a control freak. So I wrote
Oh
that
my
book.
gosh.
I'm a perfectionist and
Uh-huh.
an approval seeker. So I
Mm,
wrote a book called Love Idol, which was my very first book. But this
mm,
book, this one, came out of a place of something that I have done fairly well, not perfectly, for
mm,
my whole life. I don't know that I ever would have called myself a morning person, but I've always woke up, woken up to a day believing that there was hope in the new day,
mm,
even when I was a wanna believer.
mm,
Somehow, that had been ingrained in like, that was God. Like, this is a new day. I knew in my heart that his mercies were new every morning, even though I wasn't even sure I believed there was somebody sending new mercies. I don't know how to
yeah,
describe it, but it's this
yeah.
idea that has come through generations and histories and centuries of literature, this
Mm,
idea of everything will be better in the morning. And God is a God of everything will be better in the morning. It's his promise. He
mm,
says in the scriptures, these verses might be familiar to those of you listening. You may have seen them like on a mug or on a wall hanging, that his mercies never fail. They are new every
mm,
morning. There's
mm,
another one that says, weeping may last for the night, but joy comes with the morning.
mm,
But the book, where it came from, the genesis of it, as you said, actually came from my daughters.
mm,
We were on vacation in Mexico, and we were talking about all the fun things we wanted to do that morning. Espresso, the breakfast buffet, walk on the beach, have our we were going to study our Bibles together. We were going to play bananagrams.
I love it.
And I said, I love mornings so much. I wish I could just make the time stand still. And I meant not just there on vacation, but like just in general. I
Mm,
loved what the morning offered to a person, a fresh start. Lydia, our older daughter, took her hands and laid them flat on the table. And she says, Mom, you need to write a book about mornings.
mm,
And we began to talk about what mornings were like in our house because they weren't perfect. They wouldn't have
mm,
belonged on anybody's Pinterest mood board. They didn't look cute on Instagram. They were
yeah.
messy, they were chaotic, but they were filled with hopefulness. They were
Mm,
filled with the girls understanding in their own hearts that God's mercies are new every morning. It was really
mm,
important to me to create that kind of environment for them. So they talked about those things. And now I am sitting there hearing all these years later how much mornings meant. The book isn't for just moms, but that is where the book came out of because somebody else spoke it back to me and said, this
mm,
is what worked. And that very morning on vacation, I decided to start studying every morning mentioned in the Bible because I didn't want to come at this book like, what do I think mornings ought to be like?
yeah.
I'm the expert on mornings. No. It was like, what does God have to say about mornings? And
Wow.
what I found just kind of like blew me away. The very first thing that God created on this earth was a morning when
Wow.
he said, let there be light.
Hmm.
and on it goes. So many cool Bible stories and so much that the scriptures have to teach us about the power of a morning.
Yeah. Well, and I love, again, your journalistic approach to this book, too, from looking at every morning mentioned in the Bible, which, how many mornings
Yeah.
were mentioned?
There
You
are
had that number.
there are over 200 mornings mentioned in the Bible.
Yeah.
I
That's a
don't
lot of
have them
mornings.
all in the book, but I have a lot in the Bible
Yeah.
study. There's a companion Bible study, a lot in the book, but they
Mm-hmm.
became the whole, like, all together. They
Mm-hmm.
formed the narrative and helped me understand the character
Mm-hmm.
of God by what he's doing in the morning. I mean, think about it. Like, if you've ever heard of the Israelites, these were people that were roaming around the wilderness on their way to what's called the Promised Land, and breakfast was delivered every morning by God on the
Mm.
ground. It was called manna. It was like the world's first frosted flakes. And it was just like, oh, wow, God is he provides for us right away in the morning in like really unique ways. Or there's a lot of stories where we see biblical characters, um, acting out in obedience in really difficult things that they're called to do. Like Abraham, it says early in the morning, Abraham went out. Well, it wasn't like a really sweet assignment. Like it was about his son Isaac and taking his
Mm.
son Isaac up the mountain for his sacrifice. I
Yeah.
mean, how awful. And I'm
Right.
like, dang, this guy, he didn't procrastinate. He didn't hit snooze 5 times. He didn't have some beautiful, like, quote, quiet time. He just got up and did what God called him to do. And that's a
Mm.
lot of us, just having to do hard things in the morning and needing the strength of God to get through it. And I
Yeah.
mean, it just goes on and on. Jacob,
Yeah.
having a dream, waking up saying, "Whew, surely the presence of the Lord was in this place." I mean,
Mm.
I could go on and on. This whole podcast about the power of mornings and scriptures is pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you do make these biblical characters come to life in the way that you talk about them. But you also, in that journalistic research approach, share other people's morning
Hmm.
stories. I love throughout the book, you have little snippets about people like Ben Franklin,
Yes.
Maya Angelou, what their morning routines were like, which I thought was so interesting. But then you also interview college students and young moms, and you have people across the board
Yes.
who have real lives and real mornings.
Yeah.
So you're giving so many examples of what it could look like, not what it should. I hate the word should, but
Hmm.
what it could look like
That's good.
for you to approach your morning with intentionality
Hmm.
and hope. Um, can I be honest with you about something really fast?
Yes.
I resisted reading this book just like I resisted growing slow because I didn't want to admit that this is hard for me. I didn't want to admit that I don't really want to have a morning that feels productive or like I have to jump out of bed with a smile on my face. My fear about this book was that it would be another self-help book telling me that I need to work harder, I need to be more productive, I need to be, just optimistic Pollyanna in the morning, which I am not. Let me tell you what. The only thing that gets me out of bed is hearing my coffee maker on the automatic timer starting to go. And then I can start to smell it. And I'm like, all right. And I kind of shuffle literally like one eye half open, like not even both eyes. I shuffle my way to the coffee maker and I pour my coffee and then I go and I have my kind of time in the morning. That is just my favorite part of my day. But I was worried that you were going to tell me to be productive. I
Oh,
was
I get
worried you
it.
were,
I was
yeah,
worried God was going to tell me that. I was freaking out. I feel you, girl.
my goodness. So how is this different than like a regular self-help book that is going to tell us to maximize our
Hmm.
morning?
Yeah, I was really worried about that too. And I was looking at the books out there about like you can wake up at a certain time, and then if you do these particular tasks before, say, 6 a.m. or whatever, then you're going to have like a great day. And I thought, I guess I'm going to have to do that. Except that I went to the scriptures and saw that that's not what God says at all.
Phew.
At all. It was such a relief to me. The acts that we can do to build a morning, I think it's important to be intentional. I think it's
Yeah.
important to you know, create our expectations and our intentions around the heart of God. I think those things are really important. But I think what has happened, in particular among Christian circles, is that we've um, gotten into this idea of what a quote quiet time is supposed to look like. And for most of us, a quiet time in different parts of our lives have looked anything but quiet.
Hmm.
Maybe we've had kids that were, wrestling or fighting or needing things. We have our phones pinging. We have work, coming our way, and we need to get out the door. And mornings just don't feel quiet. They feel chaotic.
Hmm.
Now, in the book, I offer real practices, simple practices, I think, that help a morning start off on the right foot, but that are accessible. And there's some things that will challenge you, that there's some things that you can try on and see if it works for you. You don't have to, but
Mm-hmm.
there are some really great things to try that could make a difference and that you can build on those habits, just like James Clear speaks of
Mm-hmm.
in his book, Atomic Habits, where you stack
Mm-hmm.
one habit on top of another.
Yeah.
That's the way it's been in our home throughout the years. I am like you. I don't bound out of bed like a Disney princess. I jump out of bed with my hair sticking out in 10 different directions, and I'm pretty sure that Jesus doesn't want to talk to me until I've had at least one cup of coffee. This really is a morning book for everybody. Whether you get up at 5 a.m. and can't wait to talk to everybody in your circle, or you get up at 10 a.m. because you work late or you need sleep. Like it doesn't exclude you. It's not
Yeah.
about early in the morning. It's about how
Mm.
you start your morning and how you
Yeah.
want to begin the day with hope.
Well, and I love that you talk about different types of people, different archetypes, you
Yes.
call them, which I love that. The freedom to be ourselves and how we approach our morning. And so I'm wondering if you can even talk a little bit about the different types of people, the different morning archetypes that people may relate to as they
Mhm.
think about how to approach their morning.
Yeah. So when I was writing the book, I was like, oh, it'd be so cool to have a one size fits all tried and true thing that fits for everybody. But
Mm.
after all of those hundreds of interviews, that became really clear that was not going to happen. That would
Yeah.
be just a gimmick. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't going to work. And not only because of people being in different seasons of life, but also because we have different personalities. God is
Yeah.
so creative. He makes us with different interests and personalities. So out of that came these archetypes, which is basically personality categories, and it's based on your personal traits and your interests. And so there are 4. The first one is the daybreak doer. And this kind of person is really ready to hit the ground running right away. They feel most relaxed in their body if they have a clear sense of what's ahead for the day. They're generally pretty productive at the start of the day. They'd like to get to that to-do list and just have a clear idea of what's coming. They want to prepare in their mind for a work assignment, maybe even engaging in a creative pursuit. That doesn't mean that they are just if they're, like a spiritual person, that they're just setting aside God.
Hmm.
There's a time and place for that for the daybreak doer, but it's
Mm-hmm.
acknowledging this is what I woke up for. I am so
Hmm.
excited and I'm productive with the day. And so I need to get my mind straight around my
Mm-hmm.
doing before anything
Mm-hmm.
else. That's the daybreak doer. Next is the morning mover. And this person functions the best if she can get moving right away as soon as she wakes up. So maybe that she's going to head out the door for a HIIT workout early in the morning, or she's going to go for a walk around the block or a run or whatever it is. I mean, I know people that are they have their weights set out in the living room the night before because they're going to do their workout before the kids wake up. I mean, there's a
Mm-hmm.
range of possibility, but they want to start there because it kickstarts their metabolism and their mood. And
Totally.
then the third type is a meditative mind. And this meditative mind is drawn to a morning ritual that begins with prayer, devotional reading, journaling, other kind of quiet activities with God. It really helps them feel calm on their inside, kind of the way that you talked about after you get your coffee and you just sit down and it's just you called it the
Mm-hmm.
favorite part of your day. There's something,
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing, about it that makes you feel calm
Yep.
and gives you a sense that, I'm going to get through this day.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's so
Yeah, this is
grounding.
definitely me. This is
Yes.
definitely me. I
Yes.
mean, I'm like, don't talk to me for the first 45 minutes of the morning, mostly because of coffee, but also because I need this space. I
Yeah.
need this space
That's good.
with God and to connect with myself even. And so, yeah, I definitely resonate with that. But there's one more. Go ahead and finish the
There's
last
one
archetype.
more. No, it's so
Yeah.
cool to hear what you are. So
Yeah.
the final one is the social seeker. And this is somebody who craves social interaction right away in the morning. It really helps that person to have a sense of connection with other people. It gives them energy. Being around other people is important. It releases those feel good hormones that we
Mhm.
can experience. So a lot of children are social seekers. They come
Mm.
bounding out of their bedrooms and they have like these stories that have been held up in their head for an intolerable number of hours. They maybe want to be held. A lot of when I interviewed widows in particular, they didn't
Mm.
know it at the time, but it turns out they were probably social seekers because a lot of their morning activities were combined with their person. And now they're waking up to a quiet house that their whole routine is shaken because the person that they were having this morning routine with, that person is suddenly not there. So
Yeah.
acknowledging that, like if you're a widow or if you're somebody who's like, single, or if you're divorced, if your kids are no longer in the home and you wake up to a quiet place, like thinking through intentionally, what do I need to do this morning that helps me connect with others? So it might be getting on your phone and texting like your friend group about these are things I'm grateful for today, or getting on social media and like wishing people happy birthday on that list. It could be having a set time where you are talking to, like calling your mom or calling your
Mhm.
sister. These kinds of things really help you get your day started right.
Mm.
When you know your archetype, it's helpful if you begin your day as quickly as possible with that.
Mhm.
And then you can build the rest of the activities on top of it. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
okay if you go work out first thing in the morning. It's okay if you want to text your mom first thing in the morning. It's okay if you want to just have like you need your quiet space. It's okay if you encounter your to-do list before you open your Bible. Like those aren't bad things.
I love the permission in that categorization of you might be different than someone next to you, someone else in your house. You probably are a different archetype than other people. And so there's so much permission and freedom to approach mornings in a way that works for you. And I love the self awareness that that generates to start paying attention to what does spark joy, what stirs life in us, what breeds hope in us as God has made me unique and different from anyone else, but there are certain practices that help me feel more like myself in my body and in the world and in my day. And so thank you for that permission slip even there. I'm curious, what is your morning archetype?
I'm a morning mover. I
Mm.
ordinarily get up at 6:30 in the morning, just naturally is when I wake
Mhm.
up. But 3 days a week, I get up at 5:07 because my workout in town is at 5:30, and I don't have any other choice. I live near a town of 800 people, and there's exactly one fitness class 3 times a week. So, but the thing I've learned about it is I might not get up for a lot of other things at 5:07, but it was a clue to me that I'm a morning mover because I will do that. I am
Mm.
excited to get up and go in there and it's not something that's outside of God. It's not like, oh, well, God just sits in the chair where I read my Bible. Like God goes with me to that workout. I turn on my
Absolutely.
worship music when I'm going. I'm like, when I'm working out, sometimes I'm like, dear Lord, help me through this workout because I don't know if I'm going to make it. Uh, Also, I mean, I take time to like thank God for the body that he gave me to
Mm.
move and to get stronger. I thank God for the friends that I get to do that with. I work in isolation on the farm as a writer. I mean, like I'm in this office right now and my coworker is Jesus and there is
Right.
nobody else in here. So I love that. So it's almost like I'm combining social seeker
Yeah.
and morning mover and it gets me
Yeah.
going. And I'll tell you what, those are my best mornings also for
Mm.
the meditative mind part of me, because when I get home, I'm already up earlier than I ordinarily would have.
Right.
I grab my coffee, I go sit at the kitchen table with my Bible and my journal, and I'm just so energized by what happened
Mm.
in my workout that I'm able to approach the scriptures and that time with God with a lot of clarity,
Mhm.
focus, and joy.
Well, and I love the reminder that we're allowed to combine all of these things. We don't have to stay in one category, that we're
Right.
allowed to not only do multiple of these practices. I need to move, but I need to journal first. And it's okay for me to shift how I approach my mornings, even on different days. So I hear you saying, yes, some days I approach my mornings starting with movement very early in the morning. And some days I'm getting up a little later and it's looking a little different. So there's freedom to experiment. There's freedom to change
Oh,
how you're doing
100%.
things.
Yeah, I mean, some days I guess you would look at me and think, oh, maybe she's a meditative mind because she's going to do that right away. And there is like a fluidity to it. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like you're just locked in. Well, Jennifer said I have to, like, I'm a morning mover, so I'm supposed to move every day. No,
Mm-hmm.
not at all. I think that all of them have something to offer
Yeah.
us. So
Yeah.
like, let's say you are like a meditative mind and a social seeker. So what about like reading your Bible every morning with your like housemates, like your college
Mm-hmm.
roommates, while you're like finishing your breakfast? Like that's meditative mind and social seeker. What about like folding your laundry while you're listening to an audio version of something that's life-giving? That's
Hmm.
daytime doer and meditative mind. So you can
I love that.
combine these things for a really positive morning.
I love that. Okay. So I'm thinking about my struggle in the morning and some shame that I've carried around how I function or don't function as a writer in particular. And so I've talked a lot about this book proposal that I have sort of set aside because I started this podcast and don't have the time, haven't been able to make the time that I want to be creating as much space for writing. And I know so many writers over the ages, right, throughout the history, talk about getting up at 4 a.m. or whatever, early o'clock. And that's where they get their writing in. And for me, I need that time that's unproductive before I do anything else. And so I've wrestled with the shame of, okay, well, I'm not a writer because I don't write in the morning. And when else am I going to if I'm not getting up at 4 a.m.? And I do get up early. I get up so that I have that quiet space before my kids get up, who get up early, but I'm not able to be productive and I want to be. So what would you say to people who maybe feel a conflict with how they're wired and how they want to function in the morning?
Yeah. I will say that some of these things are indeed a challenge. I have a lot more flexibility to get out the door and go to a workout as an empty
Sure,
nester than I
sure.
did when I knew that, a kid was going to get up and I had to get them breakfast before they went out the door for like
Yeah,
marching band practice.
yeah.
So I think you just recognize that there is seasonality to things and it doesn't always have to be exactly the first thing in the morning, and that you shift with seasons and find other
Mm,
things that bring you joy. And don't discount the good that you're doing with
mm,
the start of your day, even if it just looks kind of messy and chaotic.
yeah.
I know like when the girls were little, I really value prayer time and I value reading God's word. I mean, I'm a Christian and I'm a Christian Bible teacher. So that's important to me. But my best Bible study time does not happen first thing in the morning.
Mm,
It didn't then anyway. It probably does now. But then it was like when they were napping is when I did
mm-hmm,
my quiet time, like my Bible time.
mm-hmm,
And it was maybe at night when I had Bible study with some other women from the community. It wasn't first thing in the morning. But I really encourage women to nurture whatever their type is right away in the morning. And I really
mm,
encourage women to get in touch with their spirit and their soul and their heart right away in the morning, whatever that looks like for you. So it might not look like a 20-minute time in your Bible. It might
mm,
look like listening to something life-giving as you're getting ready for the day. It might look like just writing down 3 things that you're grateful for. For me,
mm,
this morning, it looks like when I wake up, I say, "Good morning, Jesus." I say that. "Good morning, Jesus. This day is yours. I don't know what all you got in store. I got my plans, but make your plans my plans. Make your will my will." I mean, this is the kind of
mm,
thing I do every single morning. Not pretty. It's not going to
mm,
look nice on Instagram, but it's working for me and on busy
mm-hmm,
days. So I think just like make it not what it looks like on TikTok. Get up
mm,
at 5 a.m., run a half marathon, have artisan toast points with microgreens, exegete the whole book of Philippians, and then iron your bed sheets before 8 a.m.
Oh my gosh. That's not real
Right?
life.
It's
Not real
not.
life.
Like, just figure it out. Real life
Mm,
for us in a way that is meaningful to my girls all these years later was every single morning I prayed out loud with them. We prayed out loud
Mm,
without
mm,
fail every morning. So if prayer is a part of your life, pray with your kids out loud. It could feel awkward at
mm,
first, but it makes such a difference. If that's not your thing, maybe it is like reading something that's really just life-giving and hopeful, like just
mm,
something that gives your child a sense of you caring, and it
mhm,
helps you to get through the day too. Like find what those
mhm.
things are. That's a great way to start the day.
Yeah. Well, and even as you give these examples, I'm aware of the tendency or temptation that so many women especially face to compare ourselves
Mhm.
to what you might be saying, like, oh no, I'm failing because I'm not praying out loud with my kids every day, or I'm failing because I'm not doing this and this and this. And that's not what you're saying at all, and that's not what this book is. What I sensed as I was reading your words was invitation,
Mhm.
invitation to experiment and to find rhythms and rituals, as you call them, that work for me. And
Mhm.
even that reminder that what worked for me in a season last year or when my kids were younger or what will work for me in the future may not be what's working for me today. And there's freedom. There's so much freedom to change and experiment with different rhythms that are in alignment with how you're wired.
Yes.
And I'm even just thinking about my personality. I am someone who I rebel against myself, and any rules I make for myself, it's immediately resist. And so I know that if I tell myself, this is what my morning routine has to look like, and you will be disciplined and you will do this every day, internally, all of a sudden, I don't want to do it. And I resent myself for making this rule. And so I know for myself, I have to have so much freedom and flexibility and choice in how I approach my mornings. And
Mhm.
so I just love that freedom that, like, okay, some days I'm allowed to start with silence and just sitting in the presence of God. I don't have to say anything. Some mornings, maybe it's listening to an audio prayer guide, which I love. Lectio 365 is an example of something I
Love
love
that.
to listen to. Yeah. Or worship music, you said. Or sometimes the first thing I do in the morning is to journal. And I have all of this almost menu of practices that resonate with me, but I don't have to do the same thing every day. That will make me feel locked in
Mhm.
and disconnected from what brings life, what brings joy, what brings hope for me in the morning. So, yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for the freedom to
Yeah.
change our minds and to choose and to grow in different
Yeah.
seasons.
I like that menu of options. Sometimes when we talk about morning routines, it can feel very performative and like a
Mm,
box to check. But if you have a menu of options, that's exciting. Like that
yeah,
feels meaningful and
yeah,
interesting and fun. And
yeah.
God is endlessly creative. Like, why not
Mm,
have a menu? Let's go.
mm,
I want a
yeah.
menu. I love it.
Right. And I'm someone who loves a lot of choice. And there are other people who don't want to have, they don't want to make decisions. They need to have that decided
That's
ahead
right.
of time. So I'm wondering for women who are like, yeah, a routine, a ritual in the morning sounds really great. That's wonderful. But my life is in chaos. My family member is in a season of extreme health crisis, or this is happening in my own personal life, and life feels upside down. Routine and ritual feels like it's not an option right now. What would you say to people who are in hard seasons of their life and feel like they can't even grasp a place to start here?
Hmm. Well, I got to the point where I decided that I couldn't wait for perfect conditions to decide to start my day out with hope. And I'll tell you when it happened. It was during the hardest season of my life.
Hmm.
My dad was placed on hospice for congestive heart failure. And when you're on hospice for congestive heart failure, you are on hospice potentially for a long time, which was the case. He was on hospice from April to September. And I became, I was already his daughter, but now I became one of his caregivers. I spent a lot of time at my parents' house. And right away in the morning, I needed to be up helping dad with his meds, helping with breakfast, helping with his morning cares. Here comes a nurse. Here comes a social worker. Here comes dad's grief. Here comes mom's grief. Here comes mine. And then I'd come home and I was behind in nearly every area of my life. I was completely overwhelmed with everything going on. I still had a job. I still had a ministry. I was still trying to like put together keynote addresses for major events in other states. And I'm like, I don't know how to do all this. Like it was beyond overwhelming. It
Hmm.
was difficult. And I don't say those things to complain. I wouldn't do it any other way. I would go back and do it all again to be there for my dad. But I learned during that time that I couldn't wait for mornings to get all wrapped up and pretty, to stick to some kind of a morning ritual. During those times, during those chaotic seasons, it seems like the morning ritual is dispensable. Like it can just go away. I don't have time, but that's actually when you need it most of all. Because when your life falls apart and when your heart is breaking, it's not a great idea to skip the steadying presence of some kind of a morning ritual. Because for me, it invites the unwavering presence of God. For me, it's going to overflow well into how I'm caring for others and loving others. So during that time, I shrunk it down. I just shrunk everything down. I made sure that I took care of my body every morning. I ate a simple breakfast. I took my meds. I took my supplements. I drank a lot of water and a lot of coffee. I took little walks to keep my body moving and my mind sharp. I did carve out time with God because I needed him more than ever before. And I didn't have the luxury of lengthy times in at my kitchen table, but I found creative ways to meet God that suited my circumstances. I knew that I would not put God on the back burner. I needed him more than ever. I needed his comfort. I needed his provision. I had to lean on the Holy Spirit to help me make really good decisions when I was clouded with heartbreak. So I think it's so tempting during those times to think, I just can't. But I just got to the point where I realized I can't afford to wait for an ideal life to meet with God upon waking. And that has been my reminder in every challenge since then. And in a way, it was what I was trying to live out before. But again, for anybody listening to this right now, like you're in the middle of the chaos, like I already had some patterns in place. I already had some habits. I just encourage you to find these little things. I really encourage you to shrink it down. This message I'm giving you today and in the book is not, here's how to have a perfect morning. It is a message of God is going to meet you in the middle of whatever it looks like. Acknowledge his presence, open your hands, know that he's with you, even if it doesn't seem like it in everything else. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I have like a few, not just a few, a lot of practices that are specifically for people in chaos. So, Jillian, I'm
Yeah.
really, really, really glad you asked that question.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think about the hope that this book gives and the permission even that you're giving us today. And this idea of what it means to be a morning person. I loved your definition. Your argument in this book is no matter how you feel, you are a morning person. And so you talk about that. Can I read from
Yes,
the
of course.
beginning of your book? You say, you've been taught your whole life what a morning person is, a so-called early bird who wakes up like some professional dawn watcher, whistling in the shower and clapping with glee over her pancakes. But let go of everything you've assumed about morning people. From here on out, this is your new definition of a morning person. Morning person. 1. Someone who has learned to approach the morning with hope and intention, not defined by the hour she wakes up, but by how she wakes up. 2. Someone who sees the first moments of the day as a sacred threshold in which to love God with her heart, soul, mind, and strength. It's not about when you wake up, it's about who you wake up to be. To fall in love with your morning isn't to deny the exhaustion or despair you feel some mornings. Not at all. To fall in love with your morning is to look at the morning sky and choose to feel the wonder at its gilded edges, to reach for the stubborn hope of a new day because you know hope changes things, and to let the protagonist of this story, God himself, wake you up with his love.
Yes,
So
Jillian.
beautiful,
Yes,
Jennifer.
thank you.
Is
Thank
there a
you.
permission slip that you would give to the people who are listening before
Yeah.
we close?
I think in a world that values productivity and in a world where we have, since the Industrial Revolution, actually lost 3 hours of sleep, in a world that sees sleeping and napping as laziness, I just want to say you have permission to rest.
Hmm.
You have permission to take a nap. You have permission to go to bed early, to let something slide, to decide that there's not an end to the work, but there has to be an end to the day. And to decide that you are worthy of taking care of your body. You have permission to take care of your body. You have permission to have a long-term relationship with your pillow. You have permission to decide, like, you know what? Me time is not just me scrolling endlessly at the end of a night, but me time is getting myself to bed and getting the sleep that I need, because there might be a child materializing at the side of my bed at 3 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Like, prioritizing that, like, as best you can. And if the day is hard and long, that you have permission to go somewhere for 20 minutes, lay down
Mm-hmm.
on a couch and just sleep.
Jennifer, I don't know if you can see the tears in my eyes as you say these words, but I am receiving that permission to rest in a season that's been intensely exhausting. I receive that, and I'm so grateful for your words here and your good work. Thanks for this book. So everyone, go get your copy of How to Love Your Morning, or even the companion Bible study. Go through it with
Yes.
some friends this summer. And I'll make sure to link that in the show notes. Jennifer, thank you for the gift of your time. It's been a treat.
It has. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Permission Slips podcast. I hope this conversation gave you permission to pay attention to how you're wired and to start to experiment with a morning ritual that allows you to awaken with hope. If you're looking for some resources, make sure to check out Jennifer's book, How to Love Your Morning, as well as the companion Bible study. And if you're looking for a resource that might offer you a space to gently start your morning, I've got a free resource that will help you practice gentleness toward yourself, using the gentle framework to ask you questions that help you pay attention to your own heart, mind, body, and soul. You can find that on my website, which I'll link in the show notes as well. Remember, your life matters, and so do your mornings, more than you know.